Hello and welcome to a special episode of Morrowind Showcases taking a look at the first round of mods for the Morrowind Modding Madness, our annual team-based modding competition. And as many of you doubtless know already, we have 7 teams competing this year, composed of 28 modders, all trying to beat the odds and become the ultimate modding champions of 2018, earning the favour of our Lord Kogoruhn. Now, for the first round of the competition here, each of our modding teams had to build a 6-house and Great House themed town mod of some variety, and each of the 7 modding teams took this basic theme and went in very different directions. We have 7 completely unique and incredibly cool looking mods to showcase today, but fair warning, we will not be doing an overly detailed showcase here. We'll just be spending a few minutes looking at each mod, and some of these competition entries are, quite massive, with tons of quests, dungeons, and things to do, so, just keep in mind, we'll only be showing off part of what all is in these mods. And we'll also be going in alphabetical order by team name, so we'll be starting with Team Drama Kwama, and ending with Team Sexy Sloads, and you'll of course find timestamp annotations and download links down below. And just real quick, before we get started here, once again, we're recording this audio for this video on a different computer than normal, since the video editing computer died a couple of weeks ago. And we're also recording the audio in a different room from a normal, which honestly feels a bit stuffy, so that might affect my narration a bit. Normally, I record the audio in my office, but the kittens have sort of taken over that space, and this computer isn't quite as kitten-proof as the old one was, so I don't want them, getting on top of it. But anyway, let's get things started with Kogoruhn expanded by Team Drama Kwama, composed of Greatness 7, Remiros, PhDinSorcery, and Meriyal. And as the name here would imply, this mod adds a massive expansion to the ruins of Kogoruhn, the once famous 6-house city that now lies in ruins in the northern Ashlands. And right away, I need to point out one of the special gameplay effects added by this mod, which is the bell tower. About every 5 seconds or so, the bell tower Kogoruhn tolls, causing damage to your health, and, visual disorientation the closer you get to Kogoruhn. And the only way to stop this effect is to get inside the bell tower and kill the bell ringer, which we'll see here in a moment. But, this just adds a really cool scripted effect to what is really one of the most important main quest locations in the game. And of course, this does, make it a lot more difficult to actually enter Kogoruhn. Lower level players will probably die from the bell tolls long before actually getting inside, so you'll need to be, a moderately high level. And it should also be noted that this mod does require the latest NWC nightly build as well as the newest update for MGE-XE. And anyway, just moving on, we're going to explore these expanded ruins here, and really it has to be said that this is really just a really impressive looking mod, especially, considering that the team only had 2 weeks to just put it all together. The ruins of Kogoruhn have been massively expanded and detailed with tons of little relics, treasures, and other things for you to find. And this is a particularly welcome addition since the only other, mod out there that really touched on Kogoruhn was Kogoruhn Ruins by Taken by Trees, a mod we showcased a few years ago for the 14th episode of Morrowind Showcases. But that mod was a bit on the small side, and there can be no doubt that Team Drama Kwama has built a more epic and grand, addition here to the otherwise bland ruins of Kogoruhn from vanilla Morrowind, to just make Kogoruhn feel more like the actual, capital Great House Dahrk. And also note, the team has created over 180 new 6-house and ruined assets for this mod, vastly expanding the ruined building tile set from vanilla Morrowind, and adding a ton of resources which are all, free to use in your own mods, given proper credit of course. And just along with the hundreds of new resources from the other teams, this year's first round of Madness has truly provided a massive boon for modders looking to work on the 6th house, and it'll certainly be exciting to see them used in other mods. Now, in addition to providing a truly massive exterior overhaul of Kogoruhn, this mod also expands and overhauls the interiors of this lost capital, as well as adding whole new additions like the bell tower and a new temple, and other areas as well. There's even some new additions to the main quest here with some new content to check out, but for the most part we're going to be skipping over most of the new interior overhauls and expansions, and also the quests here, since we've got, 6 other mods to check out, and of course we don't want to spoil everything. As some things are just better left off for you to discover on your own, as indeed there's more than a few surprises waiting for you in Kogoruhn Expanded. But anyway, just real quick before we leave off, for those wondering, Kogoruhn Expanded came in 2nd place for the first round of the competition, getting about 25 points from the judges here, only 1 point behind 1st place, and unquestionably, this is just an impressive first outing for Team Drama Kwama, And also, the two-time champion of Madness, Greatness 7. But will they let called out in the second round? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Moving on though, we're next going to be checking out Mamaea Awakened by Team Flamboyant Armigers, composed of Dahrk, Lucevar, RubberMan, and Endoran. And no, I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce Mamaea, and I get the strong impression I'm going to be defaulting to Mamaea like some sort of Italian a lot here, and I'll just go ahead and apologise for that right now. But anyway, this mod is a lot like Kogoruhn Expanded in that it takes a vanilla 6-house base that's pretty important to the main quest, and overhauls it with new expansions and also new quests to, check out here. And indeed, you'll now find a new quest to do relating to the 6th house in the town of Nissus, which starts off with a simple request to track down a 6th house lair where some Imperial Legionnaires went missing. But pretty soon, this quest becomes more involved with a 6th house attack on the Nissus Temple and cultists stealing the Ash Mask of Vivek, and pretty soon you'll be sent out to recover the Ash Mask from Mamaea. And you'll find that this once barren and somewhat boring 6-house base from vanilla Morrowind has been given a massive makeover, giving it a truly unique look and feel unlike anything else in the game. And one of the big things you'll notice here is that these bone caverns have actual bones in them, with what appears to be the spine of some unknown creature just stretching along the walls and corridors of this massive cavern complex. Throw in the prominent red lighting that the 6th house is particularly, well known for, and you really do have a rather creepy set of caverns with occasional, pulsating bits of bone marrow just sticking out of the walls here, which you can actually harvest with some new ingredients that you can utilize in your alchemy collection. And it really can't be understated how much this overhaul changes. There's all sorts of new treasures, loot, and 6th house artifacts to be found in Mamaea now, and the whole dungeon is just so unique and grossly disturbing that it really does arguably, fit the 6th house perfectly. And this mod, along with Kogoruhn Expanded, will doubtless become essential components for players hungry for vanilla-friendly content that makes the 6th house feel like a more epic, experience. And again, as we'll see in a bit, there's a ton of just new resources which are free for other modders to use, creating a massive potential boon for those looking to build their own 6th house mods. But more on that in a moment. First we're going to, check out some more of the caverns here. Because, after all, the caverns are arguably the real highlight of this mod. Mamaea has never looked better, and even though technically this mod does fall a little flat on the whole, town mod aspect of the first modding challenge, there's a lot to like here, with unique little, areas to discover, and a few quests that, tie back to Nissus. So, the mod doesn't fall completely flat on the town mod category, even if it is a bit of a stretch. And the team has also written a background explaining the unique bone cave system, and you'll come across a fair bit of a, unique dialogue for some of the vanilla 6th house creatures that inhabit this dungeon here. Now, also of note, this mod comes with a complete new set of armor for the 6th house, so, you'll run into a number of dreamers in full 6th house regalia, and of course you can loot this armor for, your own collection. And again, all the new assets included here are open for use in your own mods, including this 6th house armor set, provided, proper credit is given. So again, there's a lot to like here, not just for players, but also for modders looking to get into doing a 6th house mod. And just speaking of new assets, you'll also find a new and expanded Dunmer Stronghold dungeon here, which we won't be showing, too much of in order to avoid spoilers, but it's important to note that this mod includes a massive expansion to the Dunmer Stronghold tile set, including dozens of new hall and room pieces, as well as alcoves and other custom new additions that make one of the otherwise rather, just lackluster tile sets in vanilla Morrowind a lot more fun to build dungeons with. And between this and the expanded ruin tile set in Kogoruhn Expanded, dungeon modders in particular have a lot to, just be excited for in this year's Modding Madness. But anyway, we need to leave off here before we spoil too much of the mod here, but, again, I did just want to go over the scores. Team Flamboyant Armigers secured first place, with Mamaea Awakened earning 26 points out of a possible 30, putting them 1 point ahead of Team Kwama in what was a ridiculously close match. But with the second challenge ending soon, the question has to be asked, can they stay in first place? Or will Team Kwama or one of the other teams make a surprise victory in the second round? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, next up, we have Vaermora walking stance hold of the Thrice-Dreamed by Team Flying Guars, composed of TheDrunkenMudCrab, PeteTheGoat, ThatDwemerGuy, and Memento Mortius. And while this mod didn't win first place, it definitely won the award of just absurdly longest mod title. It really is a bit of a mouthful. But anyway, this mod starts out when you hear rumors about a mysterious portal that's opened up in a Dahrk ruin in the Grazelands, which apparently leads to one of the realms of Oblivion. And specifically, going through this portal will send you to the realm of Vaermora, which is technically part of the Dahrk realm of Quagmire, but operates as its own sort of a separate city-state. And in any case, you'll find yourself in a reception hall, where you can apply for, entry here, though the waiting times are fairly excessive, and of course, as is typical of a TDM mod, there's a ton of just occasionally colourful dialogue and lots of background documents establishing, the allure of this just a peculiar realm. And in particular, Vaermora is best known for a sort of a hallucinogen that can be acquired exclusively here. And indeed, this particular drug and the effects it causes dealing with dreams is what brings such a wide and diverse group of people to this otherwise somewhat obscure realm. And to actually get into Vaermora though, you'll need to be a member of Great House Telvanni or the 6th House, or just, have a pretty high speechcraft to get past the Crimson Argonauts, which are Vaermora's police force, so to speak. And for whatever reason, the leader of Vaermora, the High Arbiter Vermilion, has an exclusive deal with House Telvanni and the 6th House, and each faction has their own, sort of section of the city here. As we'll just sort of see here as we just wander around Vaermora. And I do need to apologize for the pop in here. You'll notice, trees and buildings just sort of popping in and out in the background. That has a lot to do with some sort of oddity with the distant land settings in interior world spaces like this, but anyway, you'll notice that this is the first mod that we've taken a look at that actually fits the themes and categories for the first round of Madness, which is to say, building a Great House and 6th House, themed town mod. The other two mods that we looked at before this did, sort of fall a little short of really matching the themes and categories, though both did get exceptionally high scores from the judges. But in any event, the real meat of this mod is actually the quests, and there's quite a few of those, including a main quest that you can do for High Arbiter Vermilion, trying to determine which of the two factions, the 6th House and the Telvanni, are trying to take over Vaermora. What you find out could change the shape and path of this realm of Oblivion, and I believe this quest branches with multiple different possible endings. There's also a main quest for both of the core factions represented here, including the Telvanni and 6th House, which you can do work for if you so desire. And along with these main quests, there's also about 12 side quests covering everything from the absurd to the routine, including a quest that you can do for... I can't believe this is in here, Blimdim. Now, if you're wondering why this mod didn't win first place, I wonder no more, for including Blimdim is an automatic 500-point reduction. Really, the only acceptable use of a Blimdim in a mod is to have no Blimdim. Anything else is just sheer madness. But my personal Blimdim antics aside, there's quite a lot of content here, and this is probably one of the really largest quest mods from the first round of the competition, if perhaps not the largest due to a certain mod with, a rating questing system that we'll be checking out at the end of this video. But regardless, quest lovers will find a lot to like here. Now, before we move on, let's take a look at the scores here, and Team Flying Guars came in 5th place in the first round, earning 21.5 points out of a possible 30, and a fair bit of that point loss had to do with the judges just, finding the mod a bit weird, which it unquestionably is a bit on the odd side, but with only a 4.5 point difference between 1st and 5th place, there's plenty of room for, Team Flying Guars to make a comeback in the final round of the competition. Only time will tell if they can, actually pull it off. But we're next going to be taking a look at Felisa by Team Hungry Hungers, composed of Telshadow, Big Boss, Mamaea, and Lightsourced. And one of the newest teams in this year's competition, composed almost entirely of new modders, Team Hungry Hungers is probably one of the most, ambitious teams from the first round of Madness. Not just building a new 6th House and Great House themed town, but also building a new and rather sizable landmass, including some really just quite impressive landmarks, demonstrating once again Telshadow's remarkable ability to just create large-scale landmasses in relatively short periods of time. Because again, the team only had about 2 weeks to put this one together, and for such a short amount of time, they built a really just impressive-looking landmass. And just as a note here, Telshadow has quickly become one of the fastest really landmass designers in the community right now, with work going on with Fablewind, this mod, a new landmass for the second round of Madness, the continent of Akavir, which, yes, you heard that right, and also a random dungeon landmass, mod that was released last week. I'm honestly not sure how Telshadow can build and finish so many projects all at once. but there can be no doubt that he has some really impressive exterior design skills, as we can see here with this new island. And, personally, I think the current rumour going around the community is that he is in fact not human and actually some sort of just sentient artificial intelligence that has somehow utilized hundreds of computers, just networked all across the internet, to build all these giant landmasses. At least that's my personal theory anyway. But anyway, just getting back to the showcase here. Well, Felisa is big on the landmass and town front. It's a bit light when it comes to quests. There's a main quest available to Telvanni players from Telvos, but the quest isn't overly lengthy or really even all that important to the mod. The core content here is the landmass, a town, and a massive central dungeon that you'll get to fight through, top to bottom, which we'll be, seeing more of here in a bit. At first, we're just going to explore the town for a minute or two, and it's a fairly normal looking Telvanni town. Just ignoring, of course, the giant Dahrk tower to the side there. This Telvanni village is built around a set of Dahrk ruins, and you'll find about, half a dozen buildings here, including a tavern, a couple of traders, a smith, and also an alchemist. But moving on to what is really, the main feature of this village, the central attraction, as you might call it, is a massive combined Dahrk and Telvanni tower that stretches up way into the heavens. Once again, the creative talents of Tal Shadow's exterior world design are on full display here. And really, I have to say that Tal Shadow has certainly built some of the most unique looking locations out of any mods released this year, let alone for Morrowind Modding Madness. And, you just gotta appreciate the sheer verticality of this tower. And just speaking of madness, you'll note that the tower here appears to be dedicated to our Lord Shilgorath, and no doubt Tal Shadow took some inspiration from our Dahrk Tower of Madness, so his design is arguably far superior. And perhaps it won't come as much of a surprise that this tower is, in fact, a massive dungeon, with a number of floors, side towers, and chambers to fight your way through, all of which are, fairly well detailed and cluttered, and of course include a variety of 6-house enemies. And indeed, the 6-house theme here is used primarily as a dungeon crawl, which is a pretty good, if a bit standard use of this particular theme. And all in all, there's a fair bit of content in Felisa, though perhaps not as many, quests as the other entries that we've looked at here. Now, once again, before we move on here, we're going to take a look at the scores, and Felisa tied for 6th place, with a score of about 19 points. And really, the mod would have performed a lot better if it hadn't been for some persistent localization issues, dealing with some German dirty references. And most of that has been, since cleaned out, but most of our judges didn't get a chance to play the cleaned version of the mod, so Felisa got knocked a lot for just, functionality. And if not for those localization issues, Felisa, probably could have gotten 3rd place, and, still with only a 7-point gap between them and 1st place, there's still a very real possibility that they could pull ahead in the final round. We'll just have to, again wait and see. And next up, we have the Reclamation of Hasimminus Mine by 2 Nordic chefs, composed of Enclave Killer, Lady Phoenix Fire-Rose, Mort, and Pikachu no TM. And this mod basically starts out one of 4 different ways, which, really all end up with you meeting a Endoran Lord in the Tower Dusk at Ghost Gate, who will tell you a story about how the 6th house has stolen a family artifact, a sword that he claims, belongs to him, and which is being held in an ancient ebony mine near the summit of Red Mountain. And this is the start of a really fairly interesting questline involving a lost and ancient Raydoran settlement and mine near the top of Red Mountain, which, as you can see here, lies mostly in ruins, with a crumbling Raydoran building surrounding the entrance of Hasimminus Mine. And as we'll see here later on in this mod, once you, finish the Morrowind's main quest, you'll be able to rebuild the settlement for one of 3 different great houses, but, we'll get back to that here in a minute. First, we're going to check out Hasimminus Mine itself, which is a fairly modest-sized dungeon crawl. You'll meet Lord Rathis inside after a bloody and apparently devastating opening assault, which has seen the last of his men get killed in action. And after a short talk, he'll join you as you, try and clear the mine of 6-house cultists, and, look for his missing blade. And real quick, one thing to note here, a lot of the cultists have custom death animations or poses that they take after you kill them, which might look a bit odd with my overpowered, cheat character just one-hitting everyone here, but which adds a rather unique touch to this dungeon, and certainly adds some variety to the standard just fall back or fall, forward options of Morrowind's original death poses. And in any event, these are some really just fantastic looking dungeons that you'll be fighting through, with some just amazing detailing and cluttering work courtesy, I believe, of Lady Phoenix Farrose. And the atmosphere in here is just absolute perfection for an ancient and abandoned mine near the top of Red Mountain. And this is probably the best, specifically new dungeon submitted for the first round of the competition. And as such, it isn't terribly surprising to hear that, a Reclamation of Hasimminus Mine won a 3rd place in the first round of Madness. After all, who can resist a good dungeon romp? But anyway, while this is a pretty fun and just atmospheric dungeon to fight through, ideal for mid to higher level players, this isn't the entire mod, and of course, we don't want to spoil the entire dungeon for you, so just going to move on to the other, major feature of this mod, the actual, reclamation bit of the mod title. For you see, not only is this a dungeon-based adventure mod, but you also get the chance to rebuild the town around Hasimminus Mine after you've beaten the Morrowind main quest. And you also get to, rebuild the town in your Great House's image. That's right, depending on your faction, the town you build here will be either Endoran, Hlaalu, or Telvanni. So there's multiple, possible outcomes here. There's also a bit more to the questline than, just rebuilding the settlement here. For you also have a branching ending that could, change the town and the mine based on your actions. But of course, we won't be, reviewing all that here. Instead, we're just going to explore one of the 3 possible towns that you can build, specifically the Endoran option. And we're just going to check out some of the interiors again, which includes a Endoran barracks, a number of just common homes, and a rather massive outpost that includes a services wing, living quarters, and other just various amenities. These interiors, like the dungeon we saw before, are just really nicely decorated and finished, with a pretty good sense of atmosphere. And, just to keep in mind, this is just one of the 3 possible towns that you could, potentially end up with. You could also have a Telvanni settlement, or a Hlaalu mining operation, all of which will, of course, look fairly different. Now, real quick, to just take a look at the scores, Team Nordic Chefs came in 3rd place with this entry, earning 23.5 points out of a possible 30. Just 2.5 points below 1st place. Most of our panel judges were pretty impressed with this mod, and with such a high ranking, it's entirely conceivable that, Nordic Chefs with a strong entry in the 2nd round could well take the throne of madness for themselves. And again though, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, coming up to our second to last team here, we have After the Blight by Team Purist Pariahs, composed of Gavrilo 93, Carice, Articusort, and Luge 1. And now with a team like this, which is really composed of about half, quest modders, you might expect a big quest mod, and you would be right. After the Blight is a pretty sizable quest and town mod that makes it so you can restore Great House Daggeth after you've defeated Dagatha and finish the main quest. It all starts out when you meet a lovesick Dunmer in the mining town of Nissus, but that'll soon lead you to a new Ashlander camp near the ancient ruins of Kogoruhn, as you can, see here. And this is pretty much the town portion of this mod here, this small Ashlander camp of about 4 yurts, consisting of a handful of NPCs, and notably some 6 house decorations, allegedly, looted from nearby Kogoruhn to help just finish the camp. But as we'll see in a bit, this camp of outcast Ashlanders has a deep connection to the 6th house, and many of them are artisans of one kind or another, similar to the primary occupation of the original House Daggeth, who were apparently, mostly made up of largely artisans before their fall. And in any event, it's a rather, I would say, a scenic Ashlander village, of a bit on the small side, and of course this is where the majority of new quests that you'll find take place, many in the typical Gavrilo fashion. If you've ever played a Gavrilo mod before, you're probably, already familiar with his questing style, and you'll find a lot of similar quests here, though there's also a fair bit of a dialogue and characterization as well to give these characters a unique feel. Now, as with most quest mods of this nature, most of the early quests will involve fetching various items, some commonplace, others less so, but as you progress, you'll be asked to make a few choices as well, such as, reviving Great House Daggeth. And really, the vast majority of the content here is quests of one sort or another, with some 30 quests in a total, making this one of the largest quest mods of the first round, if perhaps not the largest, though it's a bit hard to say for sure, who has the most quests given just the number of just large quest mods submitted in the first round. Now, most of these you'll get from 1 or 2 different quest givers, and for the most part, we're not going to be, showing off too much here in order to avoid spoilers and all that. But anyway, taking a look at the scores, after the Blight earned 19 points, tied for 6th place for Felisa. And for the most part, the judges knocked the mod a bit on the creativity front, which is perhaps understandable. There's not really as much flash or unique designs as with the other mods that we've looked at here. It's pretty much a straightforward quest mod. That said, they're only about 7 points behind, and it's entirely possible that Team Purist Pariahs could place in the top 3 with a solid entry in the final round. Again, we'll just have to wait and see, and really there's a lot of that in here because, when all the teams are this close together in score, there's really just no telling which way this, whole competition could go. But anyway, finally, our very last mod for the first round of Madness is the Ministry of Clarity by Team Sexy Sloads, composed of Danae, Darknut, Corsair, and Merlord. Now, in some ways, this last mod that we're going to be taking a look at here is somewhat experimental, and as a result, it was plagued with more than a few issues in the first week after release, which was partially due to a bugged, issue with the MWC not rebuild. But anyway, more on that in a moment. First, this mod starts out in Vaermora, where a wife is complaining that her husband has been kidnapped by Goldmask strangers just in the middle of the night, and after a very brief investigation, you'll be sent to the Office of the Watch in Vivek, and meet an Ordinator willing to hire outside help here. He'll have a number of quests for you to do, which fall generally speaking into 2 categories: finding and retrieving items, and rooting out 6 house cultists. And this is where the more just experimental part of this mod comes into play, for Merlord has designed a sort of radiant questing system for Ministry of Clarity, which means these quests are random, there's no particular order to them, and you keep track of your active quests, and not through your journal here, but through a couple of mission sheets that you'll find in your inventory. Not only that, but you'll also be notified when a quest is ready to turn in, with a little message that'll just pop up at the bottom of the screen here. So if, for example, you have a quest to get, let's say 500 loaves of bread, you'll be alerted when you have that number in your inventory. And once you complete a quest, you'll get a little bit of gold as a reward here, and more importantly, your faction reputation with the Ministry of Clarity will increase. And this is actually how, ranks work in the Ministry. You automatically go up in rank after completing so many quests and increasing your reputation by so much. And after doing this for a little while, you'll be given a main quest, which is to say, a unique and not radiant design quest that furthers the story of the Ministry, such as tracking down a lost Ordinator in a 6-house cave. And it's also worth noting that this mod does do some light overhauls to a number of just 6-house bases, as well as add in some new traps and areas for you to discover, just plumbing their depths and all that. And eventually, you'll be able to access the Ministry of Clarity's headquarters, located in a secret search chambers below the Office of the Watch, though you'll have to finish about half a dozen or so raiding quests, and also the first part of the main quest before, you'll be able to access these rooms here. And as it turns out, the Ministry of Clarity is a secret order of Ordinators meant to deal with data worshippers and 6-house cultists. And indeed, the first part of the Ministry's base that you'll, see here is the Holding Pit, where dozens of 6-house dreamers are held in containment for the welfare of the citizens of Resdayan. I also find the Quartermaster's office in here, as well as a number of Ordinators of the Ministry of Clarity, and you'll note that they seem to have a unique set of armor, which of course you'll eventually be able to get for yourself as you rise in rank. And anyway, much like a Team Purist Prize mod, this is primarily a quest mod in nature, with multiple quest givers, including 2 more quest NPCs that have different types of raiding quests for you to pursue here, as well as a number of main quests. Now, just depending on how you count quests here, this may well be the biggest quest mod from the first round of Madness, and doubtless we'll see a more developed and polished, raiding questing system in the future. Merlord has actually promised to build a framework so modders can easily make their own, raiding quests at some point, presumably after some of the kinks are worked out with MWSC. And in any event, it's time to take a look at the scores here, and although there's no question that Team Sexy Sloads accomplished a great deal of Ministry of Clarity, this mod was just plagued with a lot of issues stemming from the experimental raiding questing system, and it suffered in scores as a result. Now overall, Team Sexy Sloads came in 4th place with a score of about 22 points, earning high marks for creativity and unique design, but losing a ton of points in mod functionality and also a few in judge preference, since many of the early on raiding quests can be a bit on the tedious side. Still, that's only about 4 points behind first place, and as we keep saying here, anything can happen in the final round, so we'll just have to wait and see. They could still, pull ahead. And that finally wraps up today's showcase video. Keep in mind that we do still have the second batch of Madness mods to take a look at, which we'll be doing sometime probably next week or the next, week and a half. And anyway, in the meantime, download links are down below, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.